Welcome back to the Roll-Up High Roller community. As always, nothing on the roll-up is to be construed as financial advice. We are just some educators in the DeFi space. Toss us a quick like, give us a share, a repost, send it to a friend who may want to watch this, and finally, give us a sub or a follow. It means the world to help support credibly neutral educational content in DeFi. We're here to educate, empower, and enrich you, and let's jump in.
Welcome to DeFi by Design, where we talk all things blockchain and cryptocurrency while striving to educate, empower, and enrich.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the DeFi by Design podcast. Here today in the Roll-Up studio with Rob and his hairy arms, and our boy Alwin, who is the, look at those arms, GM. Alwin's one of the co-founders of Vertex. We had Darius on as well, and his sweet British accent 2 months ago or so. Now we've got the pleasure of meeting Alwin, who is the co-founder, like I said, and also, interestingly enough, the youngest full-time hire from Jump. GM Alwin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. Just spent some time tonight, and yeah.
Nice, man.
Nice.
How did you meet Darius, and what's your origin story?
So for meeting Darius, I used to work on Terra. So I just met him through a mutual friend. And Darius was looking to build something on Terra, and I was also just sort of in between things. So he just made the introduction, and we got along pretty well.
Nice. How did you get into Terra? If you take us back further.
Yeah, so I got into crypto basically just by starting at Jump. So I wanted to trade futures or equities or something, but at the time it's 2021. Crypto's probably the most exciting thing going on. So I ended up on the crypto team at Jump, and I worked on some Terra stuff while I was there, and then that's how I got really familiar with the Terra ecosystem. Just got to know a lot of the people who are high up there. So it just made a lot of sense as a career move if I were to go leave and start something.
Nice. And how old were you when you got hired?
So I was 18 for Jump.
Nice. And you've got a programming background. That was kind of what you were interested in prior.
So I taught myself how to code when I was in high school, and then for college I went to West Point, which was this military school in the States, and West Point just wasn't really that great of a fit. I didn't really like it that much, I figured I could probably just drop out and just get a programming job, and then sort of just worked at some no-name places for a bit, ended up at Jump, and the rest is just degeneracy all the way through. So
that makes two of us. I had some friends who went to West Point, and that's an interesting environment. Also, we are part of the dropout gang, so good to have you. Rob's got 2 degrees, one in math and one in philosophy. So I always say that Rob's makes up mine. I'm sure there's some people on the team who also can make up yours.
Do you use any of those degrees?
Theoretically, I use them every day.
Okay,
I'm not a math teacher, but there's plenty of math in analyzing the game theory of a lot of these mechanisms. Philosophy, it's we all think. So that's all philosophy is. I think every day. So I think I use my degrees.
I just heard so much cope, man.
I heard I don't
every day, I think.
Alwin just ganging the dropout. I was just hanging up with the guy who actually made it through.
Well, that was
I couldn't make it.
I got my 3rd degree in cope.
I wasn't smart enough to make it through college, so it's what.
Yeah, but now you're now you're fully involved in Perps, which you thought was kind of I call it a 0 to 1. I'm in the stock market, you can't really trade perps. You can trade futures, but they always have expirations on them. And then Binance and BitMEX kind of launched these trading platforms where they have funding rates, and you can basically open leverage positions forever, perpetually. And all of those kind of strategies. Did you ever see any of that? Those arbitrage strategies on BitMEX back in the day, or was that a little bit before your time?
Dude, I was like 13 when that was the thing. I was going to middle school, man.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting liquidated. Although I never traded on there because I didn't have access to it. Anyways, I think that perps are generally a 0 to 1 thing, and especially bringing them into the decentralized landscape. Yeah, you know, I'm curious, kind of your perspective, if you agree, or if you think that, you know, there's other use cases that are more impactful from, you know, specifically like the financials and the derivatives market. Like generally, I think perps have just been like a massive use case for people wanting to engage in trading in crypto.
Yeah, like perps are just like a really capital efficient and nice way if you want to like just gamble on some crypto coin. It's like, it's a lot less complicated than trading spot. And, you know, if you're like a firm that has like sort of custody and like regulatory requirements, like a lot of times you can't like hold physical tokens. So like perps is actually like sort of nicer in that respect. So yeah, I mean, it opens a lot of doors. And like, at least when you look at like what financial products have market share in crypto, like perps are just really, really dominant.
For sure. I remember reading, I don't know if you've ever had a gander at Devil Take the Hindmost, but they, you know, it's a book about a tons of stock market and speculative bubbles over the last 200 years. And what's interesting about futures contracts in the real world is they actually settle in real world goods, corn, and you know, cows, meat, electricity, different things, right? That energy, things that power the world, commodities, basically. And there's been times in those markets where legitimately the speculators have pushed prices so high on futures trading that caused dynamics in those markets to be completely out of whack. But in crypto, since there's no physical settlement, as you're saying, since perps don't require you to actually own the coin, you know, that to me is kind of what the big key thing is. So I agree with you on that front.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if that's like not requiring like physical settlement. Like on one hand, like, yeah, it does make like the life of a speculator easier, but it's also like, you know, at the end of all of those futures products, there's like, you know, real value that's like getting traded, and like, you know, like a farmer is able to like hedge out like his crop yield or something like that. So like, yeah, I would say that like they both have like their use cases. It's just that like, I don't know, like in crypto, like there's not really that like, I'm a person who like has like an actual business that's producing value, and I want to like hedge out like my revenue or something like that. Like that doesn't really exist. And like, so perps are just like a much better like gambling mechanism.
But you can hedge your if you're a team who is a part of a project, you can hedge your allocations. You can short assets that you think are overhyped. So very much so agreeing. And as far as the use case without the physical business, wouldn't go as far as to say value creation, but to each their own.
Do you think there's use cases of blockchain and crypto beyond speculation?
Like I think there's some, like, but there's not like, I think it's a lot less than like what's sort of like made out to be, right? Like a lot of people want to project like, oh, this specific application of blockchains, like, the next big thing because it's like in their interest. Like I think that like just real world assets getting tokenized on chain, yeah, I think that like that has like a genuine use case. I think in a lot of ways, like crypto payment rails are like nicer than like traditional finance payment rails. But like, I think that like, and then there's also something to be said about like with like AI and like things being fake, like things being fakeable really easily, that makes it that like you want like just this provable like attestation of like what actually happened. Like I think those things are real world use cases that like aren't speculative. I'll say that like most of what we're seeing right now like is speculative. But like yeah, there's like some hope.
For sure. Are there particular, are those the like the sectors and verticals that you're personally excited about outside of course what you guys are doing at Vertex?
So I guess it's like those are just the things that I could think of off of the top of my head. Yeah, like I don't know. I'm not like super like up to date on like the narratives and stuff. A lot of the stuff I'm excited about is like just like pretty technical stuff, like okay, how can we do this, and like learning about like some interesting way to like make something faster or something like that. Or like yeah, as opposed to like trying to like piece together narratives and stuff, because they don't really impact my life that much. And like I'm pretty set in like the current thing that I'm working on.
We'll say less, sir. We will dive into the Vertex sequencer, some of the off-chain and on-chain dynamics that you guys have, may even poke and prod about some centralization or decentralization, or try to find some edge cases. But before we jump into that, because we're going to have to explain kind of what sequencers are and what off-chain ordering and how you guys kind of do your entire shabam. But let's talk about Vertex as a whole. So you and Darius got together. You decided that, the Perps landscape wasn't adequate for your liking, that you guys could do better. Now you've got Vertex, one of the leading Perps dexes in the entire space. Crushing over, some days well over 500 million to $1 billion in volume, if not more. I think notionally total, maybe like 90 billion since inception. So some guys would call that pushing P. I'd say that that's pushing some weight. But yeah, man, I would love to learn more about, what challenges and flaws in the Perps dex landscape that you guys saw that Vertex now overcomes with some things like one-click trading and some of the other experiences. And then happy to dive into some more of the technicals with regards to the functioning and the things that you guys are doing to keep, really low latency and high performance.
Well, like unfortunately, we're only at like 50 billion. So
no,
so yeah, so for
have it on the website.
I don't know. Like that's, if it does say 87, then that's bullshit. We're like 51 or something. But like, yeah, what we started Vertex back in like I think 2022. Like the current iteration sort of came into focus like in the second half of 2022. So like at the time, like the landscape was pretty it was just like, it was not very like you had like GMX, you had like stuff like there's even like a perpetual protocol with like VA MMMs, and that was like considered super innovative at the time. Like there really wasn't anything that was like close to competitive with like centralized exchanges. Like I think since then, like the landscape has gotten a lot better, right? Like UX has improved pretty dramatically across like a lot of different projects across the spectrum. Specific to us, like we're pretty like dead set on like sort of just pushing like the envelope of in terms of like performance. So like we will make some trade-offs between like performance and like decentralization, right? So decentralization is like a bit of a spectrum. So like on one end is like, you just have a centralized exchange, and on the other end is like you have something like Uniswap, and like we sort of just want to be somewhere in the middle where like our performance is like equivalent to that of a centralized exchange, but like users still have like custody of their assets. We're not like too concerned about stuff like MEV or like making sure that like the sequencer can't like cheese the ordering of order placements and stuff like that. It's like one that's just like, I think A, like that's just a really hard problem to solve, and B, like I don't really think a solution is needed. So like what we're doing right now is just trying to push the envelope, going for like, just the correct like deals on the biz side to be like competitive with sexes. And like seeing where that takes us.
Why do you think your go-to-market strategy was able to amass so much like volume relative to the entire Perps landscape?
Like, I mean, like, I don't think there's anything like too special about our go-to-market strategy, to be honest. Like, I think we executed it like it was okay. It wasn't like crazy. Like, obviously, like, and like, there's things I would have done differently. Obviously, like, having incentives help a lot. Being like, just having like a really good product helps a lot. And then like where we really shined was with like BD and like onboarding like institutions. So I think like as a team, like our marketing's like quite weak, but like we were just able to get like so many market makers on board so fast. And we just had like very, very deep books. Like, I don't have like specific numbers on this, but like you can like compare across like different perp dexes and like try and buy like, I don't know, a couple BTC perps or like 100K of BTC and just see like how good execution you get across different exchanges. And like Vertex is like incredibly competitive. I think even with like centralized exchanges.
Yeah. I think the product speaks for itself in terms of usability for somebody like a market maker who's probably using algorithms and things, but even just like your average trader who's used to trading on Binance, when you enable one-click trading, it becomes just as seamless. And to kind of deposit from Arbitrum into, and even cross-chain now, and even into Vertex, and then start to use the exchange. Let's kind of talk about the technicals with regards to how this works. App chains have become very popular. Roll up as a service, launch your own app-specific roll-up. Vertex is almost similar. There's some slight differences. Let's talk about kind of like the technical structure as to how we got here. So, off-chain order book, but things are still happening on-chain. How did you guys come to these decisions, and kind of what is the structure now?
I mean, it's not like a particularly like it's not like a particularly unique structure. So it's like pretty similar to like DYDX V3 or something like 0x, right? Where like trades settle on chain, and then and like user deposits are stored on chain, but like just the order matching is completely off chain. Like our reasoning for that structure was sort of just like we can go through like different spectrums of decentralization, right? And what we thought was most important looking at FTX was like the inability for your funds to be stolen. So we thought that as long as like that was sort of all the decentralization we really need in my mind. Because like as a user, like I don't know if you would be like incredibly outraged if like the sequencer swaps your order with like another order. So like your order gets bumped by like a couple milliseconds, as opposed to like all of your funds get stolen, right? So we were very much like, let's do something that like maximizes like the safety of your funds. And then once we have that, just push the envelope of performance as far as it goes. So the first part of that means like having security that like ultimately settles to Ethereum. And then the second part of that is trying to move like as many components as you can off chain. And like there's a lot of different like reasons as to why I think that like that's sort of the best setup for performance. Like if you were to have like a blockchain, these nodes need to talk to each other. It takes like, I don't know, like 65 milliseconds for light to like travel halfway around the world. So you have like a globally distributed set of nodes, like for them to like coordinate and come to consensus on like just where your order is. Like by that point, like you're already an order of magnitude off from like being competitive with centralized exchanges. So we figured that like, we pushed the envelope of decentralization insofar as protecting users, and then like to not really bother with decentralization if it doesn't protect users. So that's sort of where we came to this current design. And yeah.
And was that the pitch to institutions? Like, is that balance what resonated with market makers, that they weren't getting at their centralized institutions? They were worried about lost funds, and then decentralized offerings at the time didn't have the type of performance and latency that they had come to expect on centralized exchanges? Or was there something totally different that they enjoyed and they got them excited about Vertex?
I mean, like, there's a, like, so, I mean, the main reason why a market maker would trade on a venue is because it makes them money, right? So, like, obviously that's like the primary pitch, which is like, trade on us, you'll make money. But, like, being like, very competitive with sexes having the same exact model, so like it's very easy for them to integrate. And like,
I guess
it's not like,
my question is more like, why are they making money on Vertex but not on some other exchange?
oh yeah, I mean, like, the answer for that, like, right now is just like incentives, right? So like, incentives, like, yeah, like, make it so that like there's friendlier taker flow and stuff. And then like, as market makers get on board and like have really tight quotes, there's more like retail users who actually like, use Vertex as like a place to execute. And then, market makers, like, they benefit from like that taker flow. But like at the very start, right, obviously that pitch is like, we'll incentivize you to come on, make markets, and then like we'll get you like this taker flow. And then like, you sort of have to bootstrap it, like, unless you're doing like, an FTX Alameda type thing, where like you're running your own market making firm. It's like, you just have to solve that chicken and egg problem with something like incentives.
Have you ever programmed any sort of like automated or algorithmic trading bots or strategies which can be executed in the decentralized perps landscape, just capturing inefficiencies in the market or market making or, social sentiment or things like that?
I mean, I've made some rudimentary like DEX trading bots, but like, like nothing particularly sophisticated, just like trying stuff out.
Very humble way to say that he is Jared from Subway.eth. I'm just messing around. Back to Vertex though, with regards to some of the technical components that you've been building out, obviously, there's been upgrades in the past. And one thing that stands out about Vertex is particularly the speed of listing new assets. I'm curious, like, how much technical capability or what dev, kind of tooling is required to list new assets on Vertex. And then similarly, how you guys go about finding and, asking market makers or kind of telling them and suggesting them to market make on new pairs.
Yeah, I mean, so like in terms of the dev side, like the dev side isn't the bottleneck. It's like really easy to add something. Like the hard part is just the second part of your question, which is like getting market makers to support. Yeah, unfortunately, like, we're not like an exchange plus a market making shop. So it's pretty hard actually to like, get new market makers on board, new assets. Like they, like, a market maker can have like regulatory requirements or something, or like they don't want to trade a particular asset. So that's mainly like the hard part, just like interfacing with a lot of different market makers. I don't really like touch like that part that deeply. That's like more of a BD thing. But like I would say like we've done okay at listing new stuff and like staying on top of things. But like obviously like when you're dealing with like a lot of other parties who have like their own requirements and stuff like that, it does like make the situation more complicated.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, it's quite fast. That's the thing though, that there's so many new token launches right now that it's kind of tough to keep up. But I know that some perps dexes are kind of making their entire branding like, oh, we have the most assets available to trade on chain. It's a strategy.
I think that's actually I think it's a really good strategy, man, and I think that it works. Like most of the volume is still BTC and ETH, right? But um, like if you're like a new user, you're like, oh, I'm really hyped up about this token, like, and then this is the only place where I can go trade that token. You bridge in, you start trading, and then like you're gonna stay there to trade BTC and ETH too. So like I think it's like a really sound strategy. I think that like for us to do it, we would have to probably like start up our own market making shop. And then like that sort of gets pretty close to like FTX Alameda. So we don't really want to touch that.
Yeah. A follow up to that is, when you're talking, or when the BD side is talking to market makers, and you had mentioned this, but I kind of want to pin it down even further. So those who are listening, it's a broad trend across crypto, especially in Arbitrum right now with the stips. But truly, you can go on Vertex to earn VRTX every time you trade, and Arbitrum tokens right now as part of the stip. That I'm not sure what percentage it is. It's of course proportional to your size and your volume, but ultimately, like that's just again another edge that can be gathered rather than trading on a centralized exchange. I'm curious if when you talk to people who are relatively new to perps from traditional finance, and I would expect you and Darius and the BD team to have a lot more of these conversations as things get exciting in the market. Is that something to them that is like the icing on the cake? It's like wow, this is just that they just look at it as like extra spread, extra kind of like incentive on top.
Yeah, I mean it makes it makes it easier for people to like trade. So like and like if you're like an automated trader, for example, who's like writing a taking strategy, because that you're getting incentives, right? You're more likely to like take, even if it's like you're not completely sure if that's like a good trade. If the incentives weren't there, and then like that also means that market makers are also more inclined to quote like tighter to like get that like taker volume. So it's like it's like a self-fulfilling cycle or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I always say it's like only in crypto do you get paid to trade. In traditional markets, you literally pay to trade. Like back in the day on Schwab and TD Ameritrade, it was like $7 for a trade. Now it's free, right? But
yeah. Well, it depends, right? So like, you don't get paid to trade in TradFi, but like Jane Street does, right? So like, like they'll pay like the big boys to like trade and like for you to run into them. So I guess that's like one of the nice things about crypto, which is like these like incentive programs are like a bit more open to everyone, as opposed to being limited to just like a very small number of institutions.
Definitely.
What were some of the things that you learned while you were at Jump? Like maybe one of them was like these big boys get paid to trade. Like what are some of those like tidbits that you picked up while you were there that maybe are misconceptions in the crypto world?
Like, to be honest with you, I didn't really learn that much about crypto while I was at Jump. Like, I think when I was at Jump, I was like sort of very starry-eyed, like going through white papers, like, oh my God, this shit is so cool. Like, I'd say that like most of my learnings were more like technical as opposed to like these are the cynical truths about the world, Yeah.
But like TradFi, like any TradFi tidbits, like that's how like market makers get paid and incentives work in TradFi. And
yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like I learned most of that stuff like just outside of Jump, like during my time after. Like while I was at Jump, I was like very like sort of technical focused. And like keep in mind, like I was on the crypto team at Jump, right? So like you don't actually learn a lot about TradFi while you're on the crypto team.
Yeah, fair enough. Curious about some learnings as well. As far as the kind of next steps for Vertex on the technical side, what are you coding these days?
Yeah, I mean, like the main thing is our cross-chain build out, right? So like to give some context, like I think one of the reasons why like our cross-chain design is a bit unique is because like we're sort of value additive to every chain that we're on. So for example, like most other order book perp exchanges work in a manner where it's like, this is where the exchange settles, you bridge your funds over, everything happens on this layer, and then like when you withdraw, like it just sends you the funds on that base chain. So like the way we're doing cross chain like sort of settles on every single chain, so like the trades hit every chain. So like just getting that to work was what I was working on over the like past month or so.
And how does that work? How do you settle a trade on one chain and then it settles across all connected ones?
Yeah, so like I guess like the way I would do this analogy would be like just pretend we're just dealing with two centralized exchanges, so like Binance and Bybit, right? Like how do I match orders, like an order on Binance with like an order on Bybit? And like the answer to that is sort of like orders on Binance and Bybit like kind of already match each other all the time, just like indirectly, right? Because you have like trading firms in the middle like doing arbitrage between those two exchanges. So what we're almost doing is like simulating like a perfect market maker, right? So like if you have an order on if you have an order on like let's say Blast, and then like an order on Arbitrum, and then you want to match those two, you just create like two matches. So it's as if a market maker like matched with this order on Blast, and then the same market maker like also matched with this order on Arbitrum. So you just have two trades against a market maker, and then that market maker is sort of responsible for like rebalancing funds. So we've sort of just built that into the system, where like you have like this perfect market maker that has no incentive to make profit. And all it's responsible for doing is just like unifying all these books.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that doesn't lead to any fragmentation. You guys use some, like, there's no, like, assets from one chain aren't necessarily transferred to another, or it's just a matter of the market makers on each chain through some sort of interoperability layer or protocol or system can then basically interact with each other to match each other's orders. But that all happens off chain, or what am I missing?
Yeah, I mean, so like, I guess the market maker analogy was sort of like, trying to explain how like liquidity from one venue sort of bleeds into like another venue, when like a market maker is active on both venues and like making arbitrage trades. So what we're sort of taking at is like, we have these two venues almost, right? We have like this venue on Blast and then this venue on Arbitrum. And what we're doing is like, we're having the system act in a way that's similar to like a market maker would on Binance or Bybit. And then because like, the system runs everything, it's like perfect in the way that it causes the liquidity to like, bleed into each other. And like at that point, it's just like one book. So to step through an example, like say like you have a resting order that's placed by a user on Arbitrum, and then you have like a taker that's trying to take on Blast. So that Blast order should match with that order on Arbitrum. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the market maker, but it's actually just the system, place an order on Blast, and then that order is going to hit that market maker at the exact same level that the order on Arbitrum would have been at. And then at the same time, the market maker is also going to like place a taker order on Arbitrum. So what happens is that market maker is delta neutral, right? Like it just gained some position on Blast and then lost some position on Mantle or something like that. And then both of those people, the order on Blast is filled, the order on Arbitrum is filled. So it's like that like trade sort of just passed through the market maker in like a delta neutral way. So that's sort of like that system is just like what we're using to like merge all of these books into one. And like any cross-chain trade is just represented as two trades. One trade on Arbitrum and one trade on Blast.
As you combine these books, and books here are the networks. So as you integrate new networks and further expand Vertex's book, does the pricing on Vertex get sharper and therefore better pricing to end users?
I think that like we hope that like it just looks like one book. So like I think like we're not really combining books at that stage. And what I do think though is like, as we get more users and as we like open up to like a lot of different chains, like there's gonna be more incentive to like quote like tighter and deeper. So like I hope the pricing gets better and the plan is for it to get better.
Got it.
Yeah.
And does this scale, does this tech, or does this concept of these market makers interacting cross-chain, does this scale to like 3 chains, 5, 10, 12? Is it specific for optimistic rollups? Does it scale to ZK? Does it scale to L1s? Like, what's the capacity here, and any like restrictions?
Yeah, so right now it can scale to any number of EVM chains. And then like if we really wanted to, like if like a non-EVM chain really took off, like we could build like a contract endpoint for that chain. Like it would be kind of hard to integrate a non-EVM chain, but like not impossible.
Gotcha. And then with regards to the Blast launch, well, first, why Blast? And then also I'm curious about like the branding and the idea behind that.
Yeah, I mean like I guess like why Blast is not like, that's not like a decision that I like scrutinized super heavily. Like in general, like I think Blast is like probably going to make it. I think their team is like very sharp, and that's like just one of the reasons why we think that.
I mean, I don't mean it in a negative way. Sorry to interject. I put it this way: why Blast rather than Optimism?
Oh, I think like, so Blast is like a new chain and they have like a lot of eyes on them. And one of the things we learned on Arbitrum was like, you can like during the Arb airdrop thing, like we were like one of the latecomers to Arb, right? So even though like we're one of the largest projects on like Arb now, I think like for the airdrop we got 0. And like going through like the host stip process, it was like pretty difficult like getting votes, right? Because we just had like no actual power on that chain, like despite what happened. So like insofar as like starting on a new chain, like it just makes a lot of sense if you think that someone's like going to make it. You like going on the ground floor and you want to be like at that like OG table, so to speak. So
yeah,
like on Arbitrum that would be like, I don't know, like GMX, Camelot, and the others, right? And like, they run that chain. They've done a really good job. So like one of the big learnings from that was like, yeah, there's like a lot of politics behind the scenes, and like, no matter what, like we could talk about product all day, but like, playing politics is still important if you want to get anywhere.
Yeah, DAO governance is an interesting beast. And then, so you guys aren't, so, most teams go cross-chain, and their strategy is, let's take our brand, Vertex, Sushi, you name it, Uniswap, and let's bring our brand to all these different chains because they will recognize us, and, we'll get that name share, we'll have that mind share. You guys kind of went against the grain a bit, and you're launching under a different name, which I'm forgetting, but you certainly know, that I think is a more retail-oriented vibe. It's got a more fun feel to it, I think, perhaps one could say. And I think it could be more sticky and catch on to Blast users and to just general Ethereum users. So perhaps I've answered my own question a bit, but curious to hear about more of your learnings with regards to cross-chain branding and strategy, and why you guys chose to go in this direction. And actually what the name of the new brand is there, because I forgot.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's called Blitz, but that's honestly kind of bearish. We might have to rename it if it's not very memorable.
Why are you fudding, Andy? Why the FUD?
Yes. Yeah. Blast, Blitz. I mean, hey, blast off, Blitz, blast on.
Dude, I thought it was a good name, but dude, apparently it's just no one cares. But So like a lot of people disagree with me on this too. Like a lot of like, we had like some fun and stuff like that. And like we've, spent a lot of time talking to like a lot of stakeholders and stuff to figure out like the best way to conduct a like a cross-chain launch. Specific to Blast, like Blast, like they care a lot about like curating like a certain vibe for their chain. And they care a lot about like projects being Blast native, right? So like it makes sense, like in the sense that like, we could like launch Vertex on Blast and just call it Vertex and like take our existing brand over. But just in terms of like the preferences of like, the L1 team and like how we thought like, what would make like a stronger impression in that competition, and also like for users, we thought that like just like a new brand just made a lot more sense. Like the way we ultimately thought about it was like it would be better to like, fork the marketing a bit than to like not do well on Blast at all.
Well, they can't fork your market makers. They can't fork your sequencer. Maybe they can't fork everything that's happening off chain, the team and all of this. But what this strategy is very interesting, where you saw Uniswap V2 forks be deployed on Avalanche, like Pangolin, and you saw a Sushi go, but then specifically you saw these native ones on each alt L1. Phantom had like Spooky Swap. So they forked the code and changed the brand, which hits in a sense of like being native, but it's still kind of like, it's just a fork. Whereas what you guys could theoretically deploy a new brand on each chain that is applicable to each of those chains' vibes, using the same cross-chain market making that you guys have, and almost have like a native brand that is aligned with each chain's overall like, if you think about these as states, population, that really would jive with them and potentially like have a strong product market fit or strong vibe fit, but still get all the best of the Vertex product under and the market making, which is it's pretty bullish, man.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. But like it's still a very like case by case thing per chain. So like I think Blast in particular, the calculus made sense to like go, like it's still a lot of effort to spin up like a new brand, right? So for Blast, given how much they care about like, being native, like I think it like made a lot of sense for like other chains are probably just gonna do Vertex. But like it's just a case by case basis. Like we try to think really hard about it and like figure out like what's gonna be like, most value additive to like Vertex at the end of the day. But yeah, we'll try to figure it out without like creating too much fracturing.
I think Blast is going live in, it should be a couple of days, no? Pretty sure is it not this week or something's this week?
Oh, the competition, I think the results come out like next week. And then they're going to go live like the week after that. So it's very quick.
So this pod will probably be out just shortly after that. And so will you guys at this time, speaking of the future here, will Blitz be live day one on Blast? Is that the plan?
Dude, the problem is like if I say yes, I can't like retroactively edit this. That's the problem. So like, that's like I'm gonna try my hardest, man. That's why I moved in with my parents. So we'll see. But like no promises. Like I think that so far, like we have the cross chain build out fully working on testnet in terms of the backend components. Front end design is ready to go. So like I'm crossing my fingers, but like we could run into a bug or something. But like overall, looking good, great progress all around.
Nice. Do your parents have any idea what you do?
Dude, I don't like. I think they just know that like I work with computers. Like I try not to talk about it too much. Just like you see, like we talked about how like at the start of this thing, I was like Asian, right? It's like
yes, I was gonna say Asian culture.
Yeah, it's not us.
Yeah,
like they wanted to meet me to be like a doctor or something. It's not working out. They're very disappointed.
For sure. You dropped out.
Yeah, no. But yeah.
But the guy that got me into crypto was an Asian guy. He's in pre-med now, or he's in med school now, and I've just completely dropped out. You're just talking to him the other day. He was like, "Dude, I haven't touched crypto since we got liquidated on BitMEX, which never actually happened because we weren't able to do that." But it was a crazy. Anyway, Blast. So Blast goes live. Do you know if they're planning to have the token live immediately on launch, or do you know any details about kind of how that their incentives are planning that you can share?
I actually I have no idea right now. I know that one thing they're gonna do is allow projects to pass through incentives to their users. So you know how we're doing blast points for TVL and stuff. Just a way of funds are parked in a smart contract to pass that on to the users of the protocol. So but that's really all I know. I'm sure that I could find out more, but I haven't been that interested, honestly.
Deploys on Blast, not very interested in incentives.
Dude, if we get the incentives, great, man. But we gotta build it first.
Yeah.
So
is Blitz gonna have a separate token other than Vertex?
I don't actually know yet. So we've been there's a lot of pros and cons, right? So if you have a Blitz token, I think you appear more native. On the other hand, it sort of fractures the value capture of the DEX, and you'll probably upset a lot of existing stakeholders and stuff. Obviously some of that can be mitigated if you did a really big airdrop of Blitz to VRTX. But it's a pretty complicated situation. For us, I think it's just good to we're still thinking about it. We don't need to pull the trigger on anything. And Blast is sort of a situation that's evolving rapidly, right? No one really knows where it's gonna go just yet. I'm pretty optimistic, but I don't know for sure. So we just sort of want to keep the options open. Obviously this means that everyone's jumping to conclusions about this or that. And yeah, that's what that is. But I don't know yet. We're still figuring it out. We're gonna try to make the right call when we have to.
That was a better answer than I expected.
Oh, okay. Your expectations were that low, huh?
I mean, I don't know is better than just a hard no. Gives our community some hope.
Okay.
I think Rob had something.
Yeah, before Andy asked when token, I was gonna ask what are some of the more interesting technical questions or problems that you're trying to solve, or that you find yourself thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, so the cross-chain bit was the part that that's the main part of that build out. From the tech side, the stuff that I'm personally very excited about and I've been spending a lot of time reading about is just just making our performance much better. So right now, our performance is I don't know, it's I don't know, maybe between 5 and 10 milliseconds or something like that. To place an order. We have some ideas. I think realistically, we can get it down to 800 microseconds. So just learning a lot about high performance compute and going really deep into the weeds of how to push a computer to the absolute limits. That's been really fascinating to me. Obviously that sort of thing is not as useful to the success of the company compared to I don't know, figuring out how to do an incentive program perfectly. But that's the thing that I've been really excited about.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I could argue on multiple, just that it is important to the company to reduce latency, for the sake of the users to get better execution.
Yeah, but
and
if you're, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was gonna say that it starts getting very theoretical once you go all the way down, right? So from 100 milliseconds down to 10 probably helps a lot. Going from 10 to 800 micros, I don't know how much that helps. certainly cool, certainly fun. But our books are already like really fucking like they're like very thick at this point, and spreads are very tight. So like I don't know how much like the additional like -9% does for us. But it would be cool to like get our TPS from like I don't know, like 100K to like 10 million or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thick books and tight spreads, baby.
Is there are you? Yeah, you're turning Andy on with tight spreads and deep books. Thick book.
Give my trades the deepest liquidity possible with my 0.1 ETH 20x size. I don't know if you can handle that, Alwin.
Dude, I handle that all the time.
Yeah.
Are you? Let's do it.
My balance go down to 0.
Are you guys experimenting at all with like different kind of like pricing mechanisms? Like as you kind of like amass more order flow, you guys looking at like order flow auctions or like any of these
like intense, these types of things, like sim_io, sim.io. They have a cool intense thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, like I'm gonna be honest with you, like financial markets have been going on for like a really, really long time. And like they all sort of converged to like central limit order books being like the way like transactions happen. So like I don't like it gets really theoretical, like what sorts of market structure like benefits like which stakeholders. I personally I think that like central limit order books are gonna be what wins at the end of the day. And a lot of the stuff around like like frequent batch options and stuff like that, and arguing why they're super good. I think it's almost like cope around like, central limit order books, not like they don't really work on top of blockchains. You sort of have to have like a centralized sequencer, right? Mm-hmm. So like if you are like a blockchain with like block times and stuff, like you sort of have to go like, yeah, no, frequent batch auctions are like really good. And like they're great, but I don't really think so. And I think that's like a function of just what's buildable on that piece of infrastructure as opposed to like what's actually good for users and like the scheme of the design of financial markets.
Yeah, it makes sense, the point you make about like built-in latency via block times, and how that attributes or like applies to certain market structures that are more efficient for that design. But why financial market participants don't really care about that part of the design, because it doesn't really benefit them. You would have to adapt and change things to like kind of like make it work for the end user, whereas the existing solutions already work.
Like the meme of decentralization. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like if frequent batch auctions and like these other methods were better, I think that like TradFi would have adopted it at some point, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Like dude, I think that TradFi is pretty smart. Like they've come up with a lot of cool shit. They keep the world running. I'm not gonna act like I can just like code for like a week and come up with something like radically better because like I know what a smart contract is.
Yeah, that might be a hot take, but like I mean, the fact that TradFi is actually not that bad, like we'll see how much hate that gets. I think it's pretty consistent with the way the world works at the moment.
Well, we'll see. Like I can't wait. Just like, I hope. I don't know. Hopefully, like a lot of I'm gonna get like a bunch of TradFi like sycophants in my Twitter. So that's the goal.
Nah, it's the negativity comes from the connotation with regards to like all of the kind of stuff that happens behind the scenes. That we're just speaking with regards to how these mechanisms work in real time from a computer perspective. I think we can all agree that the shady stuff is actually a consequence of over centralization, which Vertex and many other perp dexes solve by having self-custody, and then blockchains then solve it further with verification on chain and things. So I'm kind of curious if any other thoughts on that. And I kind of want to ask you about some of these scaling solutions that we're seeing today and what your thoughts are maybe on like this like monolithic versus modular ongoing charade, as well as Solana and other kind of high TPS blockchains?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, I think that modular, like, I think it makes a lot of sense. At the same time, though, like, um, I think I probably lean more towards like, just something like Solana, because like you can't, like, you can always build the best, like you can't, like, in order to like actually push the envelope as to how good like your product can be, you really have to own the full stack. So I think Solana like does a really good job of that. Like, no one is as performant as Solana in production. Yeah, like they've absolutely crushed that. It's like an incredible piece of technology. And yeah, I think that like it's just really incredible. And I think that like the whole like DA layer is nice insofar as like it makes it easy for someone to like build a roll up or something like that. But like if you're talking about like your goal is to provide as much cheap block space as possible to the world that's like reasonably decentralized, something like Solana is the answer.
Yep. Nice. Good take. I think high TPS chains like Solana, Say, etc. will dominate user onboarding. And then I think the more modular ones, once chain abstraction and different things kind of come online, end up having a lot more growth in the coming years. Solana will face different issues with tokenomics and scaling and bigger blocks and things, but ultimately I think it's the best UX on chain right now, by orders of magnitude, really.
Do you think that do you think that we need more high TPS chains though? So like I kind of feel like there's almost like enough block space already if people are trying to build like a, like, I don't know, like we don't need like that many meme coins to gamble on,
Yeah, I just think like similar to Vertex, how you guys have set up a structure wherein you kind of own your execution environment by having off-chain ordering through your own sequencer. I think that we don't necessarily need more general purpose block space, but I think that every app that wants to scale to actually be like something usable by millions and millions of people, or have a potential to be like a significant app that has longevity, I think that they need to own their own block space, like you say, own the stack and kind of control the stack. So that's why I think like this like launch your own roll up or app specific chain is like almost like launch your own Solana, and then hopefully it gets faster and better over time with different improvements. Generally, I don't think that we need more optimism general purpose chains. I don't think that we need another DeFi Arbitrum chain. Like, probably don't need another ZK chain, but like more apps going to app specific chains that already have community and users, I think is like the next step. And then figuring out how to put them all together and like interop solutions under it, which seems seamless to the user, where you can click in between browser tabs from different apps on their own execution environment. I'm getting into like the dreams here, and you can interact with all of them without needing to bridge. That would take us that would be like a good next step for the space, I think mid 2025 or so.
So you think that every single app that's like reasonably successful is going to become its own blockchain, or its own real?
Most of them, I think a lot of them will, which don't heavily rely on the underlying base chain's network effects dramatically, which of course you can make the argument that a lot of them do. But I think that the trend will be increasing. Yeah.
Gotcha. Like, actually, like we've like spent some time thinking about that at Vertex, right? So like, one of the things about our design is like we push every trade to Arbitrum, and because of that, like we do have like, we do have like sort of technical constraints, right? Because like we're still dealing with like non-infinite block space. Like if we fully transition to like a ZK rollup or something like that, we could like crank like the scalability all the way up. But like, actually, I think like the network effects are super valuable for us. And like I think that like the main benefit of like sort of having your own like chain is like just being like valued on like the cultural significance of your chain. Like I feel like once you're like your own L1, it's not really about like economic value anymore. It's about like making memes and like having community. And like once you like superimpose an app on top of that, like you sort of actually like lose all the magic. And like speaking more to like our experiences at Vertex, right? Like one of the reasons why our BD has been like pretty successful and we've been able to get like deals is just because like we're value additive to the underlying blockchain that we're on, right? So like I don't know if I can like speak, like I can't talk about like specific deals, like they're still in the works, but like we're different in that sense from something like a DOITX, right? Because like at most like you can deposit into DOITX and withdraw from DOITX. We actually like generate activity on the underlying chain, and like having that alliance is like actually really beneficial to us.
Yeah.
And then like I don't know how bullish I am on like the app chain hypothesis. Like I'm still trying to think through it. Like part of what I think makes crypto valuable is the fact that like it's a community. And like it's just like a bunch of like just the fact that degenerates on the internet creating culture and like sort of having their own like sovereign like state in cyberspace is what's valuable. And like once you decide to make an app chain, like you sort of almost strip all of that away.
Yeah, and interesting takes. I mean, just to counterpoint real quick, Rob, what you guys could consider as well as something that is still additive to Arbitrum is they've got obviously Arbitrum Orbit now, which has a ton of advantages from a block space perspective. For example, if you don't process a bunch of trades on Vertex down to the L2, because effectively you either be your own app specific L2 or an L3 settling to Arbitrum 1. You don't have to pay for block space if you guys don't use blocks, 1, 2 block, 3 block. You don't have to expense that. So that's like one advantage of like doing it, and so you get all the flexibility and high TPS without all the expenses, and then still your value added to Arbitrum, but obviously not to the same extent when you're posting just batch transactions versus how you guys are approaching it now with regards to the value created. But perhaps it's still quite similar. Otherwise, man, I agree with a lot of your points, and it's okay to disagree. And I think we'll see this path of like some people doing app specific, and then once these teams go app specific with one app like Vertex, they're going to go the osmosis route, which is that then they're going to build vertically, and then it's like, well, now you're a general purpose chain again, but you just own all of these apps on this app specific rollup. And then some teams will just stay on the general purpose train, and then until things change. So it's going to be interesting. But Rob, I interrupted you. I just had to offer that feedback.
Yeah, I think it's productive because like you're saying, you either get closer to the settlement chain or you get further away from it. I think as you get further away from it, you start to get morphed into the category of your own ecosystem. Some projects are choosing to take that route because then they're priced against other ecosystems. Andy and I were talking about this before. Is like you look at the comparables for any L1 or like even a layer 2, and all of a sudden the FDV is like 10x what you would be if you were just the app without the chain part. And if your goal is to raise your valuation as high as you can, like that's one route to take. And so I see why projects are taking that route, but you lose all the network effects, you lose all the composability. A lot of the composability
too early, man.
It's like community.
There's not enough interrupt. Sorry. No, I was going to add that like the interrupt between app specific A and app specific A through Z times 1,000 is just not there for bridging in things. And then, yeah, like the community as well. What what'd you say on the Bear Chain pod, Rob? You should tell Alwin about the validators, the community validators. I think you'll like this.
I think that was,
it was like
that was Smoking the Bear that was saying that each of the members of his community are social validators. I think that's relevant too, because you look at like a main chain, and if you're going there, it's like you're kind of like losing like those community validators when you go launch your own chain. In a sense, like you're losing that composability. So I think a lot of those network effects you speak of are off chain. They're like the community validation. They're like the memes. Like that's what you're losing by launching your own ecosystem, but you're gaining an ecosystem valuation. And it's like making a trade. And I think there's like timing. There's all the things that you would consider when you would make that trade.
Well, to pose that as a question, then, Alwin, do you think that the Vertex, and if you can't speak on this, that's fine. Do you think that the Vertex token is losing value comparatively, or there's liquidity that rather betting on Vertex, it would bet on ARB?
I don't really think so. Like, I think they're just very separate. Like, I think people like invest in like a specific, I don't know, like people want to invest in like a narrative, right? I don't really see how like someone would have like one narrative and like ARB and VRTX are like competing, within that. I'd say that like we probably compete on some level with like capital on ARB with like other dexes, and then like just dexes in general. But like, yeah, I don't really see us as like competitive with like our native ARB token.
So do you think buying ARB is somehow a beta or somehow a bet on Vertex at the same time?
I don't like,
Not
given like our
guys.
our cross chain plans. I don't know how deep that like correlation would be, and like I'm not like that familiar with ARB's tokenomics, right? But like my understanding was like it doesn't really have that much value capture from like the activity on ARB. So like my real answer is like I don't know. I'm sure that like there's some way in which it would be correlated, because like I don't know, we create hype and then hype boosts token value or something like that.
Yeah, there was no right answer. I don't think, easy to see a lot of sides here, but would like to just thank you for coming on, Alwin, and sharing some insights with us. It's been a pleasure to have you in your mom's basement as you're coding for 18 hours a day, getting ready for Blitz. You're going to blast them. And yeah, I appreciate your insights.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on. This was a very nice conversation. Appreciate your time.
All is well.